It started out like any ordinary day when a successful black entrepreneur walked into a bank he had trusted for years. Dressed in a sharp suit, carrying himself with quiet confidence, he expected nothing more than a quick meeting to finalize a few financial matters. What the bank manager didn't know, however, was that this man wasn't just any customer. He was actually the CEO of one of the most profitable companies in the city, and his business had helped the bank thrive for a long time. But instead of being welcomed with respect, he was met with cold stares and dismissive words that carried an undertone no customer should ever have to face. The manager looked him up and down as if he didn't belong, questioning his identity and refusing to process his requests. Other customers in the lobby watched in disbelief as tension built in the room. How could a man who poured millions into this very bank be treated like a stranger? The CEO stayed calm, but his silence spoke volumes, because deep down, he knew something big was about to happen. No one expected what came next. A single phone call and a shocking twist would change the atmosphere of the entire bank, and leave the arrogant manager facing consequences he never saw coming. As the whispers in the lobby grew louder, people began to recognize the manager, was brushing off. This wasn't just another customer, this was the very black CEO whose company had brought prestige and millions of dollars in business to the bank. He had trusted this place for years, signing contracts, opening accounts, and building partnerships that kept the branch thriving. Yet in that moment, none of it seemed to matter to the manager, who still spoke down to him with an attitude that felt personal. The CEO didn't argue. Instead, he quietly observed, letting the scene unfold. His calm demeanor only made the tension heavier. Customers shifted uncomfortably, sensing that something was very wrong. Some pulled out their phones, recording the interaction, knowing this was bigger than just a misunderstanding. The manager, unaware of who he was dealing with, continued to deny service, repeating excuses that made no sense. The air felt charged with anticipation. People wondered how far this would go and whether anyone would step in. What the manager failed to realize was that a single call could bring the entire truth to light, and when that call was finally made, the outcome would shake not only the bank but also everyone who had witnessed the incident unfold. The tension in the bank lobby only grew as more people began to realize the weight of what was happening. Some customers exchanged uneasy glances, whispering to each other about the unfair treatment they were witnessing. A woman in line muttered that she had seen the CEO's face on billboards and in business magazines, but the manager brushed off her words, insisting that policy is policy. It was clear the manager wasn't questioning the paperwork, it was something else, something rooted in how he viewed the man standing before him. Meanwhile, one of the younger employees at the counter looked torn. He knew exactly who the customer was, but fear of losing his job kept him silent. His hands trembled as he counted bills for another client, stealing nervous glances toward the confrontation. The staff's discomfort only added to the growing pressure in the room. For the CEO, this wasn't just about being denied service. It was about the principle of dignity and respect. He thought about the countless times he had supported local businesses, mentored young entrepreneurs, and spoken about equality in boardrooms. Now, here he was, facing the very thing he had fought against his entire career. Every passing second made the atmosphere heavier, and while no one knew it yet, the next move would decide the fate of everyone involved. The silence in the bank lobby felt almost unbearable, broken only by the sound of papers shuffling and keyboards clicking. All eyes remained fixed on the standoff between the manager and the CEO. The manager crossed his arms, standing taller, convinced he held the upper hand. His voice carried across the room as he repeated that the transaction could not be processed without proper verification, though everyone could see it was nothing more than an excuse. The CEO, still calm but now firm, reached into his briefcase and placed a folder on the counter. Inside were documents showing his company's accounts, contracts, and even letters from the bank itself, proof that his presence there was not only legitimate but vital to the bank's success. Yet the manager didn't even glance at the papers. His refusal spoke louder than words, and the crowd shifted uncomfortably. Realizing this had gone far beyond business, whispers turned into open conversations as customers debated whether to speak up. Phones were still recording, capturing every second of the unfolding drama. The younger employee at the counter finally stepped back, no longer able to mask his discomfort, his eyes darting toward the CEO as if silently urging him to act. And then, just as the weight of the moment felt like it could break the room in half, the CEO reached for his phone. One call, one voice on the other end, was about to shift the entire balance of power inside that bank. The CEO's phone call sent a hush across the entire lobby. Everyone leaned in, straining to catch even a hint of what was being said on the other end. His tone was steady, deliberate, as though he knew exactly what weight those words carried. The manager smirked, still unaware of the storm that was brewing, convinced the customer's threats meant nothing. But when the CEO ended the call and slipped the phone back into his pocket, a shift in the air made even the staff uneasy. Something bigger was about to unfold. Before anyone could react, the glass doors opened and a sharply dressed regional director stepped inside. Customers gasped quietly, recognizing the figure who rarely visited local branches. But what made the moment even more shocking was the way she looked directly at the CEO, greeting him respectfully by name. Her presence alone revealed more than the manager could have ever guessed. Still, instead of backing down, the manager doubled down, insisting he had handled the situation correctly. The room grew thick with tension. Employees froze at their stations, unsure whether to follow their manager's orders or acknowledge the authority that had just walked in. Customers waited, phones raised, as if they knew history was about to be made. And just when it seemed the confrontation had reached its peak, the regional director's expression hardened, signaling that the real turning point was only seconds away. The regional director stepped forward, her heels clicking against the marble floor as the crowd went silent. She turned to the manager, her voice sharp but controlled, demanding an explanation. The manager tried to justify his actions, insisting he was following protocol, but his words crumbled under the weight of the truth. The director then turned to the CEO with visible respect, acknowledging his long-standing partnership with the bank and his contributions that had elevated the entire institution. The contrast between her tone and the manager's dismissive attitude was undeniable. The CEO finally spoke, his voice calm but firm, reminding everyone in the room that respect should never be based on appearance, status, or skin color. Customers nodded, some even clapping softly, as the message struck deeper than the walls of the bank. The regional director didn't hesitate. Right there, in front of staff and customers, she informed the manager that his services were no longer needed. Gasps filled the lobby as the manager's confidence drained instantly, replaced with stunned silence. But just as the tension seemed to break, the twist came. The CEO didn't gloat or celebrate. Instead, he extended a hand not to the director, but to the young employee who had silently struggled to do the right thing. With a small smile, he offered him an opportunity outside the bank, a chance to rise higher than he ever thought possible. The crowd realized then that true power wasn't in punishment, but in lifting others up. The lobby slowly returned to calm, but the weight of what had happened lingered in everyone's minds. Customers who had watched the entire ordeal approached the CEO, thanking him not only for standing tall, but also for showing dignity in the face of disrespect. The young employee, still stunned by the offer he had just received, felt a glimmer of hope for the first time in his career. He realized that sometimes courage isn't about shouting, it's about quietly holding onto what's right until the truth is seen. The manager left the bank in silence, his arrogance replaced by regret. The regional director stayed behind, for a moment, addressing the staff and reminding them that leadership is measured by fairness, respect, and integrity, not by fear or favoritism. Her words carried a clear message that this day was a turning point for the entire branch. That as the CEO stepped out into the sunlight, he reflected on how a simple visit to the bank had turned into a lesson for everyone watching. It wasn't just about a denied service, it was about confronting prejudice, exposing arrogance, and proving that respect cannot be demanded, only earned. The story ended not with anger, but with an example of resilience, leaving everyone present with a reminder that true leadership is shown through action, even in the most unexpected places.